The thing for me was like, if this is a self-published book, I'm competing with other books, like traditionally published books in my category and otherwise, but I'm also just competing with media. Like people are deciding each night, am I going to read? Am I going to watch Netflix? Am I going to TikTok? That's kind of how I think about marketing. Hi, my name is Ali Kriegsman, and I'm the author of The Raise.
So we are going to get into the nitty gritty of your incredible journey, but we'll start with the lightning round. When did you first identify as a writer?
I was 6 years old, and I don't remember exactly what grade that was, but I feel like that's when you become like sentient.
Uh-huh.
And my dad was a writer.
Oh,
He
really?
passed. Yeah, he passed this year.
I'm sorry.
He wasn't like a novelist or anything like that, but he was just very, very good at it. And I remember being like, that seems fun. He's like locked away in his office all day and using his
Uh-huh.
imagination. Maybe I'll be that when I grow up.
Cool. Cool. What's your all-time favorite book?
Priest Daddy by Patricia Lockwood.
What is it about that book?
I think the way that she draws and develops her characters and the way that they feel so insanely real. I mean, they are based on her real family, so that makes sense. But I just feel like I was pin dropped into her family, and they're so textured, they're so funny. I loved the reading experience, and she's so insanely gifted.
Amazing. I'm gonna have to add that to my list. It's the kind that like you always have in the back of your head because it's such a great title too. But it's
Yeah,
been on my radar.
exactly.
Yeah. What's your dream writing routine?
My dream writing routine is I wake up, I go to Pilates. I pick up like a coffee. I come home, and in my ideal life, this is happening at like 7 in the morning, which is not my real life. My real life is more like 8:30 in the morning. So yeah, in my ideal life, I'm much more of an early bird. I shower, I eat, I settle into bed or a soft surface. I
Uh-huh.
always write from a soft surface. I'm not a desk person. And I basically write from, let's call it again in my ideal routine, like 10 or 10:30 a.m. until 4,
Uh-huh.
with maybe a brief break for lunch. But I typically need a long, like 6 hour block. I take a break, I go for a walk, and then usually I end the day in my ideal routine with like, a happy hour or a drink with a friend or a dinner date with my boyfriend. But I actually lived that routine in 2023
Ooh.
writing my latest book, and it was the happiest I've ever been. And what was so beautiful about that is I had massive windows on two walls of the room I wrote from at the time. And I lived next to a children's playground. So while I was writing, I could also hear children like laughing and playing and giggling as like the sun streamed through. And it was idyllic. It was amazing.
Oh, I love that. Aside from, I mean, you lived the dream, but like when you're getting it in, when you're doing your Substack these days, what's your real writing routine?
My real writing routine is I spend my day a bit discombobulated and a bit disorganized. I have spent a few days to a week taking crazy notes apps of my different ideas and the things I want to write about and talk about. And I usually plunk down into bed at 6 p.m. after I've done work on either the raise, which I worked on this year, or consulting, which I worked on earlier this year or last year. And my brain is fried, but I'm pushing through. I make either a glass of wine or like a fancy figlia or, non-alcoholic beverage. And I just kind of push out the last brain cells I have from like 6 to 9 p.m. And then I usually sit with the finished piece for 3 days, 4 days, and then I
Uh-huh.
go back and tweak it for an hour each night over the course of 3 or 4 more days. And then I send it out. Usually what happens with a Substack is I actually schedule it and then I have an epiphany or realize the way I framed something is not exactly how I want to say it. And then I wake up in the middle of the night to unschedule it and then plan the next morning at like 9 a.m. to make edits before it eventually goes out at 11 a.m. So it's a bit more frazzled, a bit more frantic, and way more disorganized.
I hard relate. Yes.
Yeah.
What's one piece of writing that makes you jealous you didn't write it?
Oh my God. I actually want to pull up the exact title. The essay by Jessica Knoll titled I Want to Be Rich and I'm Not Sorry. I
Oh.
feel like, yeah, it really encapsulated at the time why I was so ambitious, and what I was experiencing in building my business, Bulletin, and the undercurrent of emotion and hunger that was driving my entrepreneurial journey. And I still relate to it even now. I think that art is amazing, being creative is amazing, but I think a lot of people pursue financial security and financial abundance from a place of survival,
Mhm.
in a way that isn't talked about a lot. And I love everything about that piece.
Oh my God, I need to go read it.
It's so good. It's so good. And she's unbelievable. I love everything that she writes, and she's been a huge role model for me, for many, many years.
What's her background?
So she worked in magazines.
Oh.
And yeah, her first book was called Luckiest Girl
Uh-huh.
Alive. And I think that she quit her full-time role in editorial. I don't remember exactly which magazine she was at, to work on Luckiest Girl Alive full time. And it was a smashing hit. It was a New York Times bestseller. She eventually wrote the screenplay. It took 8 years, but it landed at Netflix. It starred Mila Kunis. And then she wrote two more books after that, and she has her next one coming out July of next year. I know too much. I know way too much about
I
Jessica Knoll, but
I love that. Yeah, that's
she's
good.
amazing.
It's good to like have someone on your, like a comp author that you're like, I like that trajectory. Okay, let's talk about your trajectory. So you went from the startup world to writing a nonfiction book related to the startup world to writing a novel about the startup world. Tell us about the journey and your lessons, and I'll pop in if there's follow-ups that I have along the
Yeah, and I can be verbose, so please
way.
interrupt. My first book was really interesting, my journey to how to build a goddamn empire. As I said, I've identified as a writer since I was very young, and I always say, like, it's my first skin. Like, entrepreneurship, I consider like my second skin, you know?
I love that phrasing, by the way.
And Bulletin started out as an editorial adventure for me. It
Mhm.
started out as a kind of digital digest of like the coolest emerging brands based in New York and Brooklyn. Eventually, we went nationwide, but I was like the editor in chief of this digital digest, or what we would now call like a newsletter. And it had an accompanying Squarespace site. And the business ended up evolving and pivoting so much on our journey. And that is your duty as an entrepreneur, is to kind of go where the market takes you. And so I couldn't stay a writer for my business. I had to become, a growth marketer, a digital marketer, a social media strategist, and all these other things. But Bulletin, at it's like second or third pivot, I don't remember which one, was this like beloved retail business in New York. We exclusively hosted women owned and women identifying owned and non-binary brands in our stores. We had like three stores running all at once at our peak. We had this like amazing Y2K themed mini mall over the holidays. I forget which year. It's all such a blur. But at that point, I had actually kissed my writing career goodbye, because I was like, I am becoming like a real entrepreneur, business baddie. Like, I'm learning retail, I'm learning Shopify, you know, so much of my writing skills did translate into building the brand voice for Bulletin, which people loved. But I actually held like a personal funeral for this dream of becoming an author and becoming a writer. And what's so crazy is that saying of like, once you release or once you surrender, like, that's kind of when the magic happens.
Mm.
Not 2 weeks later, my first literary agent came inbound to me and was like, I found you in the New York Times. Bulletin was featured. I think you might have a book in you. And I was like, what the fuck? This is
Mm.
insane. So, yeah, that's not everyone's story, for an agent to find you and be like, put a proposal together. Let's try to shop this. But what I will say for anyone listening, like I had been writing, like I wrote a piece for Refinery 29, I wrote a piece for Cosmo, like I had been writing about my experience building Bulletin through these, more established outlets. I also had like a medium, we didn't have Substack then, we
Right.
had Medium. I had a Medium profile. And so he was able to see me in the New York Times, kind of cross reference my public writing and be like, oh, she knows how to write.
Uh-huh.
And I ended up selling that book to an editor at Abrams. And that was such a whirlwind experience. It was so validating, like knowing that I could hold these two identities at once. Like I can build my business and write this nonfiction book and a book that would hopefully help other entrepreneurs. What ultimately ended up happening was the book launch date got pushed a few times. It then got pushed because of COVID. I ultimately launched it April 2021, right into the pandemic, which it's funny, we don't think of April 2021 as like the pandemic. It's like if it doesn't have the zero at the end of
Yeah.
it,
Yeah. No, it
we're
totally was.
like,
It was like 1 year in, basically.
yeah. And all my like launch events were virtual. I couldn't have like a launch party. And we ended up going through with an acquisition like basically a year later. And I was managing 30 people. I was like running a venture backed business. Like
Hmm.
a lot of people have full-time jobs and they also launch books. This was a bit of like a different animal. And another thing I'm sure we'll get into is like there's a lot of ambiguity around whose job is it to make the book successful? Is it the
Uh-huh.
author's job? Is it the publisher's job? And so I did what I could. I did what was in my bandwidth to make that as big of a splash as possible. I'm very proud of that book, but I was so burnt out. Like it felt like a whole other full-time job trying to make How to Build a Goddamn Empire as impactful as I wanted it to be. And I ended up not writing for a really long time after that because I was burning at every end. So I'll pause for questions because I feel like I could just keep going.
Yeah. So tell me about the things that you did feel were within your bandwidth at that time to try to make it work. And were you working with an in-house publicist?
Yeah. So I hired my own team.
Oh.
I hired my own publicist. I had a content specialist running my Instagram for me, like the persona that was Ali Kriegsman launching this book at that time. Again, I had a whole business and a team. Like it was a technology business. Like it wasn't, what was so interesting is like it wasn't this consumer business where these things fed each other. It's like I had a two-sided wholesale marketplace business where like these things kind of had nothing to do with each other. It's really hard to explain because we had pivoted out of the stores.
So your personal brand wasn't like doing you any favors at this point.
My personal brand was doing me favors. It's more that like my business wasn't necessarily doing me favors anymore because we had pivoted. So I had a team at my publisher. What they were or weren't doing was unclear to me. And that is just kind of the nature of the game. Like they're juggling multiple titles. They like are not your gun for hire. Like they actually have paid you.
Hmm.
So that dynamic was very confusing to me because as an entrepreneur, you're used to like bossing people around and like telling them what to do. And so I hired my own publicist. I hired my own content team. I did my own like influencer gifting campaign. Yeah, I did it all myself, but like they handled Goodreads, they handled NetGalley, they handled like retail, which is amazing, like Barnes and Noble, all the indie bookstores. Whereas with my current release, like that's something I have to do all myself. So yeah, that was kind of the split at that time.
If you were going to go back now, learning what you've learned on the raise, are there any opportunities that you would have maybe prioritized differently?
1,000,000%. I think that At that time, I took 2 weeks off of Bulletin, off of my business to exclusively focus on my traditionally published book. I should have taken 2 months off. Like, I really don't think I took enough time to properly give that book the attention that it needed. That said, it performed better the year it came out than like 98% of books that year. But I think that I was pulled in a lot of directions and I needed to kind of pick a lane. And so the thought and attention and care I gave to the raise, I wish I had had more bandwidth to give it to How to Build a Goddamn Empire, because I would have invested in, getting more reviews and kind of gaming out, like, how do I get that? Like, what is the publisher doing for that? How do I kind of 3x their efforts? I would have, like, I was on the Today Show, but the title of my book, because the word goddamn was in it, they couldn't even say my book on air. And
Oh.
I didn't I didn't have the brain space at the time to even have that conversation with my editor who chose the title.
Uh-huh.
So it's like I was so, my brain was like spaghetti, and I wish I had just taken things a bit slower and taken more of a step back versus been so wrapped up and excited in the fact that I got a book in the first place, to really think about how are all these little moments going to affect the marketing funnel. Because to get such a big opportunity like that, but if a person's in the kitchen, they can't see the book and they're saying how to build a GD empire, well, that's not the title of my book. So
Totally.
small things like that, where if you're not in the right headspace, there's just a lot that you're not catching. That said, I'm so grateful for the opportunity. I'm so proud of how it performed. I love my editor. Abrams was an unbelievable partner. The book is gorgeous, but I think being a venture backed founder, bringing a whole ass book to market, just a really challenging experience.
So then on the flip side, like the lessons, because I'm a little bit about me, just so again, my debut memoir is coming out in April. If you would have asked me 5 years ago, like, where do you want this to be published? I would have said a big five. But I honestly didn't even really pursue that for this. And the small press that I landed was just like so serendipitous. And now, having gone through the contract and like it's going to be out in 5 months, I don't know if I could relinquish any more control than I already have. And like, so when I'm looking ahead and like keeping score in my head or whatever, and so, I mean, I fucking love Trio House. Chris has been amazing. Like, I hope to keep publishing with them. But like, I'm not like, oh, am I gonna leave them for a big five? Like, if I go anywhere, I'm gonna probably self-publish. So I would love to hear about lessons that you learned just about putting the book together legally, editorially, all of that stuff that taught you how to make the raise.
So with How to Build a Goddamn Empire, I don't know that, again, I was like in a properly unclogged place to like even clock legal, editorial, like anything. Like, all of that happened in such a blacked out, burnt out place in my career. And I think that was also a result of just the move fast and break things ethos of venture capital and how I thought I was supposed to operate writ large in my professional life. And so what happened with the raise was I didn't write for a while, but I had actually started working on the raise and kind of scaffolding it at the top of 2020. So before
Oh.
How to Build a Goddamn Empire even came out. And I ended up shifting agents because my agents for How to Build a Goddamn Empire, first of all, the agent I signed with at the company I was with ended up leaving. And so
Mm-hmm.
I was assigned a new agent.
Mm-hmm.
And so I had this weird structure where I had like an agent where I signed, but then also my like the agent who like quote unquote discovered me was at a brand new agency. So I kind of had two nonfiction agents, but I was working on a fiction book.
Mm-hmm.
And so I felt like in order to best support this new project, I really needed a fiction heavy hitter, and I wanted a kind of single person, versus people like splitting commission on my work. I want someone that's like singularly incentivized. And I also didn't really understand, again, because I'm coming from a completely different industry, like, is it normal to have two agents at different agencies representing what, one person? Like, I didn't really know if that, yeah, was like standard. So I ended up pursuing Patricia Lockwood's agent because she's my favorite author. And she and her team did such a remarkable job making the raise as strong as possible. Unfortunately, when we went to market with it, it was right before Thanksgiving in 2023. And, there's a confluence of reasons why something doesn't go, but it didn't go. And I kind of have my assessment of what happened. They have their assessment of what happened, but it left me in a position of like, what am I going to do? I took a year off from the book. I was so disappointed. They were so confused and disappointed. It was very shocking. But as an entrepreneur, I was like, I kind of need to understand, is this like an asset? Is this a liability? Like, is this good? Is this bad? And so in taking the year off, it allowed me to have distance versus saying, fuck this. Like, I'm just going to publish this because they didn't do their job. And
Mm-hmm.
like the editors don't understand, I didn't want to just self-publish out of spite or out of
Mm-hmm.
ego death. And we thought about going on resubmission with a new group of editors, but I felt like if I have conviction in this, why wouldn't I just do it myself? And my nonfiction advance was very substantial. I didn't realize that for fiction, your advance is like not nearly as substantial. And so I was like, well, once they take their agent fees and once I pay taxes, what even am I getting? Like, why would we resubmit? Why, I was like, maybe I can do this myself and
Uh-huh.
make the same amount and own all the rights.
Uh-huh.
So I took a year off. I reread the book. I sent it to a bunch of people. I sent it to like my mom's friends. I sent it to strangers.
What strangers?
I found people through TikTok.
Oh my
I
God.
found people, I like DM strangers on Instagram that like had followed me, but we didn't have like a personal
Uh-huh.
relationship. And I reached out to people that I had like kind of parasocially known for many years, but they had never read my fiction before. And I was just like, can you read this and let me know what you think? And between that and the editor feedback that I reread, because I made them kind of consolidate all the editor feedback, I was like, yeah, I think this is good. So I'm going to do it. And I think the lessons that I learned, to go back to your original question, was like, I needed to slow down.
Mm-hmm.
I needed to be really careful about just doing this very thoughtfully, about like making the launch really precious. And I needed to be careful about commanding the launch versus letting the launch happen to me.
Mm-hmm.
And self-publishing let me do that. I was CEO of my launch. I will say what was very tricky is the publishing partner that I worked with on logistics to bring the book to market, which I'm happy to talk about, did not meet my standards. And that was very touch and go. And so I thought that I was offloading a lot of logistics to a vetted partner that I was referred to by another author for like getting me on Amazon, like formatting the interior of the book, getting me my ISBN, making sure my pre-order went live when I wanted to, getting my Kindle formatted, making sure I was on Barnes and Noble, making sure I was on Ingram, like all the stuff that you want to offload so that I could focus on this very thoughtful, immersive, innovative marketing campaign. And all I'll say is I ended up getting refunded like 85% of what I paid by the end because it was a mess. And so that would never have happened with a traditional publisher, right? Is like they're so buttoned up. It's so rinse and repeat. And so a big lesson for me there is like, just like with anything else entrepreneurial, you're going to work with vendors that knock it out of the park. Like the creative director I worked with for the cover, everyone I worked with on like the cinematic trailer, the people I worked with on the mailers. There's so many people I worked with that just made all my dreams come true and more. But then there are other people you're going to work with, like everything with entrepreneurship, where you're going to be disappointed. You're going to have to negotiate. You're going to have to advocate for yourself. And not everything can be perfect because you, unfortunately, even though you're at the helm, you can't control every single element.
Yeah, totally. I want you to talk. We're going to get into your research process for like how you figured out how to self-publish, but first, I want you to talk about something that you mentioned in your Substack, which is like in your previous life, you were seeking external validation and like getting to the point where you could be like, hell yes, on self-publishing required a shift. So I'd love you to speak to that a little bit.
I was I was a mess. Like the way that I felt, I was so confident in the raise. And when it didn't go, I was so confused and so ashamed and so embarrassed. And I needed to take the year to redevelop conviction in the property and in the work, but also, as you said, redevelop my value system. Because self-publishing, I went on submission at the same time as a like big mentor of mine who I've been in the trenches with, who I developed the book alongside. She is so important to me in my career. And we would always joke that because of how public both of us had been with writing our books and, ideating our books, like that's what you do now, right? It's like you share as you build, you bring people in. That the worst possible thing would be is if we had to self-publish. And then there I was.
Hmm.
And it was so brutal for my ego and my self-conception. And I just kept thinking, like, people are going to think I'm a fucking loser. Like, I think I'm a fucking loser, so everyone else is going to think I'm a fucking loser. The way I switched the mode on that was really thinking about what I cared about for this next chapter of my career and of my life, which was developing certain skill sets and developing certain character traits. Like, I don't want to be someone that gets rejected once and immediately goes into like, I'm a loser mode. Like, that is not a resilient spirit. And that's also not how I felt with my business. Like, but with something creative, it's so much more personal. But like, if I actually want to get my creative things made, I can't act that way because then I'll never make something again. Like, I need to develop a resilient spirit around my creativity, or else I'm never going to write again. So what's my option? Like, develop creative resilience. And I wanted to learn how to bring a book to market. I was like, okay, I think that self-publishing is like stinky and embarrassing, but like, why does it have to be?
Yes.
Like, why? I was like, why do I think that? And like,
Uh-huh.
what if I am part of like a wave that starts changing the narrative
Uh-huh.
around that?
Uh-huh.
Like, kind of just poking at my assumptions. And instead of saying like, I have to do this like stinky, sad thing, being like, well, why do I think it's sad and stinky? And what if I frame this as an opportunity to like undo that stigma and undo that perspective? And look what happened. Like,
Yeah.
I approached it that way, and I was on Reese Witherspoon's fucking podcast.
Uh-huh.
Like, I like everything I did on social, like this whole innovative campaign I did on TikTok went crazy viral right away. Like, there's other stuff going on with the project that I can't speak to right now, but all these things that are happening, I just look back and I'm like, thank God you did this. And I'm so grateful that I shifted my perspective, but it required a lot of daily journaling and daily like mindset work.
Were there any, like, as you're trying to reframe self-publishing as like an opportunity instead of like this sad thing you had to do, Was there anyone that you were able to find as like a model of like, oh, they did it and like it wasn't embarrassing for them?
Oh my God, yeah. So Chelsea Fagan, I feel like I end up, Chelsea Fagan, I like, I DM'd her. I was like, I talk about you on every podcast. You should probably know this. So Chelsea Fagan played a big role in helping me decide at that point of like, are we going to resubmit to this new group of editors or am I going to self-publish? She decided she was really the thing where I was like, I'm going to self-publish. And her team is actually the team that helped me like figure out the process of self-publishing and like how to find that logistics partner and everything. So Chelsea Fagan runs a media platform called The Financial Diet. She is like a multi-time over traditionally published nonfiction author. And her nonfiction books, are super successful. I think she has another book coming out like right now or very soon. And she has self-published, I think, two fiction books. And part of her thinking around that was very similar to mine. I heard her on a podcast as I was like doing my research. She was like, because she's all about upside. She's like, my nonfiction advances are this, fiction advances are this. Why would I do that? I'm going to self publish and the math just maths better there. There was no part of her in the conversation that was like thinking about it the way my brain was thinking about it. Like she just saw it as like the more viable path. And like she continues to traditionally publish her nonfiction. And I'm just like, oh, this is not like an ego psychological whirlwind for her. This is literally just like a financial decision.
Also, when you frame it like that, it's like people will perceive you kind of as you sell it to them. Like if you're like, hell yes, self-publishing is awesome, people are going to be like,
and that's the thing is I was
awesome.
like, it's on me to change the narrative around self-publishing. Like I am in control of the narrative. Like, let's go. No one can buy what you're selling if you're not really feeling it. That's why I had to do the mindset work to get to like, oh, this is an opportunity. This is great. This is exciting. This gives me full creative control. Like, look at all the really creative and fun things I can do because I'm the boss. But I was not there right away. No way. Like when I found out that I didn't sell my book, I almost tripped down a flight of stairs looking at the text from my agents and cracking my head open.
No. Okay, tell me about you go through this research process. Chelsea Fagan is hugely influential. How did you figure out like, okay, this is what I'm going to prioritize in the budget to like make this a banger?
The truth is, you never know what is going to sell your book. And this is still happening today. Like I had last Saturday, so like almost a week ago, outside of my like launch window, like the first 3 days, the biggest sales day I've ever had. No idea why. Like did all my hunting and gathering, like trying to do the attribution, no clue why. And what I did instead was I thought about what are my strengths? Like what are the things that I'm exceptional at where if I invest in them, people will pay attention? Because the thing for me was like, if this is a self-published book, I'm competing with other books, like traditionally published books in my category and otherwise, but I'm also just competing with media. Like people are deciding each night, am I going to read? Am I going to watch Netflix? Am I going to TikTok? Like that's kind of how I think about marketing.
And you came in with an IP, I mean, because you'd been repped at CAA, right? And so you came in with like an IP thought too, right? Not all writers enter the chat where they're like, oh, this is a viable piece of my book as well.
Yes. My goal from the beginning, and when I say this, I mean it both strategically and also like I infused it into the book and people can feel it when they read the book. And it's why I'm having the conversations I'm having now. And it's when I tell you I had a moment writing the book where I like manifested it like through my fingertips, like into the book. And I decided like I'm setting this intention. I always had my eye on adaptation from the beginning. And so some people are optimizing for New York Times bestseller lists. Some people are optimizing for like Today lists. Like some people are optimizing for book clubs. I knew what I was optimizing for from the top. And I said, okay, I'm spending this. The way that this gets paid back to me is not, it's not in 6 months from now. It might be in 3 years from now. And that's okay. Number one, I can afford to wait. Like I'm in that position where I can afford to wait. And two, I have to decide. Like I have to decide what I'm optimizing for because I can't optimize for everything. So that informed the entire launch. That's why it was so visual. That's why there was a trailer. That's why there was photography for all the characters. That's why the cover looks how it looks. That's why it reads how it reads. Because I said to myself, I'm self publishing. What are the chances that this IP is going to get featured by like, does Hoda Kotb even have a book club? I don't know. Like, what are the chances? Pretty low. What are the chances that, you know, this gets picked? Like, yeah, GMA, pretty low. What are the chances this makes New York Times bestseller? Pretty low. USA Today, maybe, but pretty low. I do not have retail distribution. So what's going to get this book? Whose hands does this book need to get into? And so I was like, I'm not investing in PR
Oh, really?
all myself. I did not invest a single dime in PR. I invested in my trailer. I invested in creative direction, the website, the Instagram, the TikTok campaign, all the editorial stuff with my director, Ava Czar, my creative director, Allison. I invested in myself capturing social content on site when we were filming the trailer for the viral TikTok
Uh-huh.
campaign. And I invested my time in scaffolding and strategizing that campaign. I invested in, yeah, that like Ava, my director, and Allison, I invested in those two women because I'm not visual, but I knew that that needed to hit. I invested in my mailers. So like mailing like beautiful, books with like the little matches and the beautiful envelope, which that envelope is also like IP, like a little beautiful protector for your paperback. Like that was fully custom. I invested in that. And I had a network of women that were excited to receive it. And then I paid two freelancers that I had worked with my clients on like creating lists of book talkers and female founders because I thought like book talkers that love thrillers and then female founders who could relate to the characters to do a massive book talk campaign. And
Worth it?
Hello Sunshine, worth it. Hello Sunshine came to me. Bustle featured me. All these Substacks with like hundreds of thousands of followers, anywhere from like 10,000 to 100,000 followers featured me. I did no outbound PR other than being like, hi, I'd love to send you a book to both people I knew and strangers. There was no cold pitching of like, hi, so and so journalist, like none of that. And there are things happening now, and people found it through TikTok or just people reading the book and recommending it to them.
Fucking congratulations, dude. That's really
But here's the other thing that I want to stress that like, and this is literally also the point of my first book. This could be it. Like this, nothing could happen next. Like it is like painful for me to say. I surrender and I accept that absolutely this could be the end of the road, but it's okay because my number one mission was to show people that this was my first skin and that this is what I do. And I did that. And that's what I cared about most. And having fun.
oh, hell yes on having fun. But like looking in, I'm like, oh, this is like a genius pivot for you because even if it doesn't work out, which it's going to work, it's totally, it's already working out. It's going to continue to work out. But like, even if whatever, this was the end of the road, you already showed that you know how you can launch a book like this. You can put together the create, like you're pivoting into these like fields that you weren't necessary, like related, but you weren't necessarily in before. And so you're giving yourself this whole like consulting new avenues, freelance new avenues,
Yeah.
all these new avenues that so you'll make your money back one way or another.
It's yeah, that's the thing is the very worst case scenario is that I created my own case study.
Mhm.
Like an expensive case study. But but the alternative of just I kept thinking like I'm literally just letting it sit there. Like I just kept I'm like just it's sitting there, it's sitting there. Like it wasn't an option for me. And I just think everything happens for a reason. I did it. I'm excited to see what happens. And it made me a better writer. It made me a better marketer. It elevated the caliber of work I'm able to do. I'm so happy with the experience that I had. This has been the best year of my life.
Oh, amazing. So I saw that you're publishing the audiobook on Substack, which I hadn't really seen done before. What's going on with that?
So I was, and then now with certain things that are happening, I stopped
I was
because
wondering.
I'm worried, I'm worried that I will cancel
Uh-huh, an opportunity.
my, yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, I was curious because I was like, oh, there's a couple of things. I wonder. Brilliant.
yeah.
Probably a good pause for you. Here's my working theory. So I'm like an audio person. My working theory as a person who knows how to produce audio is that I saved my own audio rights because I'm like, first of all, nobody's going to make this like me. I'm not going to audition to read my own audiobook. Are you fucking kidding me? And also, I'm like, my working theory is I think owning your audio rights, if you have savvy in that area, is maybe the best way to make money off your book. I don't know, but I'm curious if you have any insight into this.
I don't know. I mean, I basically accidentally like own all my rights. Like again, I feel like I was kind of forced into this self-publishing thing and I the book came out. I've been contacted through different lanes about what I own the rights to, and I'm able to reply and be like, I own 100% of the rights. And a lot of what I get back is like, we have never navigated anyone owning 100% of the rights before. And I'm like, I feel like fucking Taylor Swift right now.
Yes.
But I'm also like a stranger in a strange land. And it's very uncomfortable for me because my brother is like, you are secretly the most controlling person on the planet. And I don't like not knowing. I don't like being in murky waters. What I can tell you is that I narrated my audiobook for my first book. It was not like a massive moneymaker, but it was also a different time, right? I feel like audiobook consumption and like just the whole audio space has exploded since then. And so I don't know. I really don't know.
TBD.
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, yes. Can you give us just a little bit of insight into the book trailer? Like, you already sort of knew who you wanted to tap for this? And then I read you spent 3 days on it or something?
Yeah. So Ava Czar, who's the director, is has been a mutual friend of mine, like a friend of mine for 10 years. And like, both of us are like, how did we meet? But I love her and I love her work. And she is so brilliant. And I broke up with, I went through a really bad breakup in January of 2023. And I hit her up and I was like, I want to do a breakup photo shoot with you. And we went to this like grimy motel in New Jersey and we're driving around. She's letting me drive her. And I'm like, I'm not a good driver. Like, I hope we don't die. And I'm looking over and I'm telling her about the raise, which I had been working on. And she's like, this is a movie, girl. Like, this is like a show. Like, this is so visual. Like, I just feel like we need to make it into something bigger than this. And I was like, I mean, that's my goal. That's my dream. And like we kind of talked about it in the car and then never revisited it again. When I realized I was self-publishing and that I was like fully in control, I decided I want to make this trailer and I want to build this whole visual world around it and I want Ava to direct it. And so I took her out to dinner in January of 2025 and I was like, this is what I'm doing. I'm not going to do it unless I can do it with you. She said yes, and we were off to the races. And then she brought in Sophia Koss, our producer, and it's been the three of us. And it was just a dream team and a dream come true. And so Ava handled like she reread the book. She plucked out like the scenes she thought would be best for the trailer. She storyboarded everything. She brought in our director of photography, Yurika. We did kind of like a test shoot as a team in my old apartment of me announcing that I was self-publishing so we could all kind of like get to know each other and like our working style. And so many other people on the trailer team over those 3 days came through Ava and Yurika and Sophia. And I did all the music. I kind of led the casting project with Sophia, but it was, again, just some of the most fun and generative and creative work I've ever done. And just bringing my vision to life like that with someone that I've known for so long, who I've admired for so long, who I trust, who like shared in my vision and then took it to such a beautiful and elevated level. I'm just like so forever grateful to her. She's everything.
Yeah, you really knocked it out of the park, all of you. I just have a few final questions for the lightning round.
Yeah.
So, do you know what's next for you?
In ways, yes, and in ways, no.
Are you going to write another novel?
Yes. So I have a new literary agent who found me
Oh,
through all my TikTok craziness. And she's excited about, some potential next steps that could happen with the raise. So we're going to see if we can turn over some stones. If not, all good. But I do think that the self-publishing traction is impressive. She feels the same way. So we're going to see, what trees we can shake there. And obviously getting retail distribution more easily than like showing up at stores and being like, hi, carry me would be amazing. And we're going to work on my next book together, which I'm really excited about. I've started chipping away at that. And then, yeah, there's some chatter about what else the raise could be. And so that, again, that stuff is so fickle. So I'm not attaching any hopes, but it's just exciting to even be considered and have that be a conversation. Because as I said, that was always my main goal. And I think I'm really just trying to structure my life and my schedule so that my consulting work on like the brand and marketing side and everything I do, as my day job, I can better systematize and kind of leverage everything I've done to just like advance and elevate my work there and do it in a more, time bound capacity so that I have as much time as I need to keep advancing my writing career. And I also downloaded Final Draft because my new
yeah.
managers are like, "Can you screenwrite?" I'm like, "I'll try.
Let's
Why
fucking
not?"
see. Yeah.
Yeah.
Any bucket list writing goals?
I want to write something like really, really commercial. Like it's funny, your heroes always change, Like I think that this is a bit vulnerable, but there's a part of me that's always like, literary, I want to be the literary it girl, like,
Uh-huh.
Times Square, like,
Suicide
cigarette.
letter. Yeah.
Yeah, like, yeah. Like, yeah, cut me open, like, spread my blood over, like, some Scars pizza. But then there's another part of me that's like, I don't know, man, like, Frida McFadden, I'm always, whenever I'm like not regimented, I'm like, bitch is a fucking doctor. And then she like, I'm like, and then she writes these like really simple, addictive books and she sells the shit out of them. And then they get optioned. I'm like, I want to be Frida McFadden. Like, I want to run a tight ship. Like, I'm going to have my day job and then I'm going to like write super commercial shit keep it on lock. I just want to be less tortured and just make money.
Oh, that's so good. What piece of writing advice do you wish you could give your former self?
Oh, just like girl, just like get it, like hit your word count goal and just like let it be bad. Like I edit as I go. Like I'm like, oh, I can't leave. It's like, no, like no one else is seeing this. Let it be bad so you can like have forward momentum.
Yes, that's so good. One tip for writers trying to get a book published.
I think I learned this lesson with the raise because something that I think makes it really special, but something I think prevented it from landing with a publisher is it's not one clear genre. And
Oh.
readers really enjoy it. Like it has an average of like 4.3 on Goodreads and like 100 reviews. So like I feel
Hmm.
like that's, you know what I'm saying? Like that's a pretty
Hmm.
good
Hmm.
ratio.
Strangers have read it and love it. Yeah.
Yeah. And the genre bendiness doesn't really irritate people. But from a marketing perspective, when publishers and editors were saying, like, we don't know where this fits on our list, or we don't know how to market this, I was so mad because I was like, you're fucking lazy. Like, I know how to market this, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, no, I actually know what they mean now. Like, so like really know what your genre is. Like The Raise is like, it's fucking literary fiction. Like it's literary fiction that I'm pretending is like a thriller, like a psychological thriller. But I've been marketing it as a psychological thriller. And then people consume it as a psychological thriller and then they're like kind of confused. You know, it's like there are actually rules. There are rules to this stuff. And I'm such a rule breaker. I was like, it doesn't matter. It actually does matter. So my advice would be like write very clearly within your genre so that an editor knows where to place you.
Oh, that's good. All-time favorite piece of your own writing?
The Race.
And then tell everybody where to find the Substack, where they can find you online.
The Substack is called New Motives. You can find me on Instagram at Ali Kriegs, ALIKRIEGS. I will not give you my TikTok because I actually don't even know what my username is. But if you type in Ali Kriegsman into the search bar, it should show up. And then my website is just alikriegsman.com, and you can find The Raise on Amazon and it's on Goodreads if you want to see what people are loving and hating about it.
Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of The Bleeders. This one is a video episode, so you can listen to it on the podcast feed or you can watch it on YouTube. Just search The Bleeders Podcast. If you want to support the show and level up your own creative practice, check out my upcoming classes and workshops for writers and podcasters. I love helping writers uplevel their craft and their career. And of course, my debut memoir, Girl Gone Wild, drops April 1st. Please pre-order your copy. It really helps. Rate, review, like, comment, subscribe. Until next time, happy bleeding.